On Location with Zara Durrani. Wow, you can hear the excitement in my voice. I'm like really loud. She just had her green smoothie, second green smoothie of the day. I am so excited to get this amazing individual, artist, actor, filmmaker, writer. He has been in so many of your favorite shows. When you Google him, when you look him up, you see like just the list of IMDb credits is endless. He's worked with some of the top Hollywood, Canadian actors, and there's not a show I feel filmed here in Vancouver that he has not been in. You know, it's like you turn on Netflix and it's like, oh yes, let me look at this show. It looks kind of, oh, there's Viv. I'm talking about none other than Viv Leacock, who we were finally able to get on our show. Viv, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a while.
It has been a long time, and we were just trying to figure out how we met. And I think I was your reader for an audition. That's how I think I met you.
And perhaps from there, before that, it was at like a film festival or something.
Yeah, that for sure.
Yeah.
But I was like trying to like trace it all the way back. I think it was that.
Probably. You're probably right. And you know, I was saying this earlier, you've always supported me in whatever I've done, like whether I'm putting an event together, a fashion show thing, something for the holidays. And we've stayed in touch over the years, even when I was living in Paris. And just so great to witness your journey, but I always felt I got your support. Like you were always like, yeah, go girl, go for it. I'm proud of you. Like, you know, just always getting that acknowledgement, and it's just so nice to hear that. And I feel like that about you and your career. I was watching Loudermilk, like this show that is here. Everyone's talking about Loudermilk. You know, it's like a lot of my friends are talking about this, and seeing, I'm sitting there casually, just, you know, I'm like, who's that? Ah, that's Viv! Tell us about working on that show.
Yeah, Loudermilk, first of all, it's a very strange name. So Loudermilk is the last name of the protagonist. His name is Sam Loudermilk. Played by Ron Livingston, the incomparable Ron Livingston. Such a great dude. And so Peter Farrelly, so from the Farrelly Brothers, Something About Mary, Dumb and Dumber.
Iconic movie.
Iconic. He's one of the guys behind, so Bobby Mort and Peter Farrelly put this together. And Bobby Farrelly's there as well.
No pressure at all.
No pressure. No pressure. No pressure. But like, you know, in an ensemble cast, it actually does take the pressure off a bit. Like there's a bunch of us. But working on that show with my man Will Sasso, from Mad TV, from a bunch of other projects, he is probably one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life, and I did stand up for a couple of years, and been around Eddie Murphy and a bunch of other people, and Will Sasso legitimately, all we're trying to do, all of us, is just to not laugh at what he's doing, because he's brilliant. He's incredible on that show. And working with the Farrelly Brothers and Bobby Mort, it's just such a collaborative situation. They're all so supportive. If you have comedic ideas, if you know, if there's something that's going to make this a little more real, because the show deals with, you know, a touchy subject. It follows an AA counselor, played by Ron Livingston, Loudermilk, and his kind of band of misfits that he helps get over their addictions while he is trying to get, you know, stay sober. And they just let us all throw our 2 cents into character development, and
Did you go to any meetings to like research, or like
no,
you guys are?
Yeah, we're, you know, some of us had experiences with people, you know, in our lives that had gone through addiction, and so, you know, some of us use that, and ultimately there's actually an actor on the show who he had his own struggles with addiction, and ended up actually relapsing
Wow,
but at the end of season one, and like we address it on the show, and it's a you know, it's a great story. He went and did rehab, and he's all better now, and when we go again, because we're gonna go again, he's gonna be back on. So we take it seriously as much as we're having like a huge laugh, and there's we make sure that everything is on point when it comes to that.
So I'm sober, and so a bunch of my friends were talking about, and we were like in like a group chat, and I go to meetings as well, and they're like, they're taking pictures, but that's it. It's funny. Like people can share their most dark things, and you all laugh together. You know, it's not like it's because now you're in the solution. You're not.
And we understand each other.
Yeah. So I'm just so because originally I started watching the show on Prime.
Yes.
And then now it's on Netflix. And it's like, you turn on Netflix, and it's like, I'm like, look at you go, babe.
Top 10.
And it was filmed in Vancouver. So with everyone, I like to backtrack. It's a little bit of inside the actor studio vibes. James Lipton, I'm channeling my inner James Lipton.
Let's go.
Yeah. I like to hear, how did you get your start? Did you always know you were going to pursue this career?
So my older brother Richard Leacock, he's an actor as well, and Rich was always an entertainer. From when we were really young, he taught people breakdancing. He could dance exactly like Michael Jackson, and so like, everywhere we went, there was always some sort of reaction to us. I knew I wanted to be an entertainer by the time I was 8 years old, but stand-up comedy, that's my first love. And in particular, Eddie Murphy was like, I idolized Eddie. I put it on another level. So just like he idolized Richard Pryor and would like walk and talk and joke like Richard Pryor, I did that with him. It's interesting enough, I don't swear in real life, so it always made imitating Eddie Murphy a little difficult. So I was like the clean version of Eddie. And so I knew I wanted to be a stand-up comedian or some sort of entertainer. I also was a singer when I was a kid. So
wow.
Yeah, so it was
It was in your blood. It was in your genes. Like you were meant to be a performer.
Definitely, because like as much as it's not something that my dad ended up pursuing in his life, he could have been like a Sidney Poitier. He could have been like a Lou Gossett Jr. He had all that charisma. My dad, he was one of a kind. But he did what he had to do, work and support the family. But that left my brother and I able to go pursue our dreams, and it was really my brother who was pushing me to become an actor. I just was all about comedy. I found it was a New Year's Eve party when I was 8 years old. My family, we were over at my aunt's place, and we all started telling jokes. And my brother and I would always do this thing where we would recount instances where our mother was chasing us because we did something stupid. And so we were telling funny stories about like basically getting our parents upset. And eventually it started with my brother and I, and eventually it was just me telling stories. And I was looking out at the crowd, and my dad sitting watching me. And my dad was like the ultimate storyteller. If there was a party, my dad was telling jokes, telling stories, making people laugh, just like crying. They can't control themselves. So I was copying my dad, making the whole party laugh, and I connected with my dad. And I saw him see me, and it just did something to me. Like I love this feeling, and so yeah, that's why I wanted to pursue being a stand-up comedian. But acting kind of came to find me first, and
Eddie Murphy, not just acting, but Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
Like Man, when you talk about Eddie Murphy, it takes me back to like being a kid in Pakistan and watching Beverly Hills Cops. You know, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he would talk really fast. I was so young watching those, like I could barely keep up with what half of what he was saying. And now that I would watch, you know, any of those movies as an adult, I was like, oh, that's what he was saying. That just really went over my head.
Yeah, and he talks real fast. That is one of the greatest moments of my life as a.
Tell me about I Spy. Tell me about you know booking that part.
So.
And what was the journey and process like? Because that's something you can never forget.
No, that is like burnt into my mind. So at the time, this is 2001. I didn't have a resume like I have now. I was nowhere near. There's kind of a hierarchy that happens when in town. If there's an audition a breakdown that comes out, casting directors send out breakdowns, and you see like supporting, or you see lead characters that they're looking for, and then supporting, and then smaller roles, and the roles get smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay, so this is a major motion picture starring Eddie Murphy and Owen Wilson. And the character that I'm going out for is the supporting lead character. So he is Eddie Murphy's assistant in the movie. And I see the breakdown that my agent sends me, and I'm like, come on, there's no way in this world. Like, there's 50 guys that have to die before they're going to look at my tape. Because there's the Dave Chappelle's of the world, there's like the Anthony Andersons. This is years ago, before those cats blew up. So there's all these guys in front of me. There's no way they're going to look at my audition tape. But I said these words. I said, if they judge this fairly, meaning they're not looking into, oh, he's the hot new stand-up comedian and he just did a show. If they just look at pure comedic talent, I said I'll get the part. If they do that. So what I didn't know was that Eddie had put out like a mandate saying he wanted to see a new face for two particular roles. He just happened to say that because it was supposed to be a series of movies.
The universe was lining up.
The universe is lining up. So he wanted to see. He's like, let's just see some new faces. Okay, so now they're open to seeing new faces. And then so that was one thing that how the stars were aligning. 2, the director, Betty Thomas, was also the producer, one of the producers. So now you don't have to have a director fighting with a producer if they like you. So that's 2. And 3 actually has to do with Betty again. Betty said these words: there are no funny black people in Canada. Those were her words. Now, that's the way she was coming in to sit down in the auditions. That's her thought process. Because from her experience, she hadn't seen anybody that was funny that came out of Canada that was black. That was just her opinion. But that's what you deal with. You deal with that as an actor. A lot of times people come into this town and they think, I'm never going to find.
Did you find that out later, or you?
I found that out later.
Okay.
I found that out later. So I'm not supposed to know that, but I do. So she had that kind of thing where she's like, I'm not going to be impressed. She had that in her head. Okay. So the part was, the character's name was TJ, and TJ is Eddie Murphy's assistant in the movie, and so Eddie plays a cat named Kelly Robinson, and Kelly Robinson is the middleweight boxing champion of the world. So everybody that came in for the part came in dressed up as a professional assistant, but what I knew that meant was, if you look at an MMA fight or a boxing match, and you see all them brothers hanging out in the ring after, those are the cats that dude hired. But they look like they're rappers. They're all dressed in like they look like they're from the streets, because they're from the streets with the guy who's now the champion. So I was like, I went in dressed like a rapper. I had baggy leather green pants on, a skull cap, sunglasses, go big chain. When I walked in, all the dudes were like, what the hell are you doing? What are you here for? I'm like, same thing as you. And they're like, okay. Everyone's kind of, I see them all kind of looking at me like I'm crazy. Oh, and this is the other thing. on the notes for my audition, it said, read with casting director only. So I was going in relaxed because I didn't know the director was in there. So I was totally chill in the waiting room, and everybody else was really tense. And they were going in one by one, and they were screwing up. They just didn't have gotta have that pace, right, for comedy. So Sue Browse is the name of the casting director. She used to be the casting director.
I know Sue.
Yes, love Sue. And Lynn Carroll. Sue and Lynn were the casting directors for I Spy. And Sue had kind of recognized that I had an ability with comedy, so she was pushing for me and my brother for these two roles. And so she had told Betty, there are funny black people in this town. Okay? So everybody that went in before me, Betty wasn't happy with. So for the first time that I actually realized that Betty was in the room is when Sue came out to get me, and she was looking very nervous. And Sue, and then all of a sudden I hear this voice say, "Sue, get back in here." Sorry, Betty, but Betty's a big woman. She's very tall, very, and that's the voice I hear. And this is the first time I'm like, "What? There's someone in there with her?" So I was like, "Oh shoot!" But no time to get nervous.
And
because
you auditioned with Sue before. You're
million
comfortable.
times.
You're just like
We're
walk in
cool.
the park. We're just going
Yeah,
in and do the
I'm
job.
just gonna hang out with her. It's all good.
Yeah.
So now now I put it together why everyone's been leaving with like their tail between their legs. I'm like, what's wrong with these guys? Anyways, so Sue comes back out. She goes back into the room. She closes the door for like 5 minutes, and I'm like, what's going on? She comes back out, and she looks at me and she's like, "Are you ready?" And I was like, "Yeah, are you ready?" And she looked pale. Okay, so jump to the fact that I got the part, and my brother actually got the part as well. But he was working on a TV show called Doc with Billy Ray Cyrus, Miley Cyrus's dad.
Yeah.
Yes, and actually due to our filming schedule being screwed up because of 9/11, everything got shifted around, and so my brother couldn't do the movie because it just wrecked the rest of the schedule. But anyways, so the only reason I know this next thing is because Sue told me this, and thank you, Sue. So after I filmed the movie and had the whole experience, I was actually hanging out with Sue, and Sue was like, I was thanking her for pushing for me for the movie and pushing for my brother for the movie, and she's like, "You're the reason that we even finished working on that movie." And I was like, "What?" And she said, when Betty called her back into the room, she said, "You told me there are funny black people in this town. If the next actor isn't funny, you're fired."
Oh wow.
And I didn't know that, but that's what Betty Thomas said to her.
Wow.
So that's what I was working against.
Yeah.
Because I chose correctly in knowing that the look was what I was doing. Like what I was doing was the look they were looking for. When I walked in the door and she saw my leather pants, I remember she was like, "Oh, nice pants." And in a normal situation, if it wasn't an Eddie Murphy movie and I wasn't so kind of out of my head with like nerves or whatever, I would have known that that's it. I got this. I would have known right then. But of course, I still am going, there's like thousands of guys that are going to get this part from Los Angeles, from New York. There's tons of guys that are going to do this. I just disregarded her statement. Normally, in a normal audition, I would have known right there, I got this. Because you like my look. And as much as it's about the acting, it's about the look. A lot of the powers that be, they don't really have the imagination sometimes to imagine this person they're seeing in the wardrobe that's going to be necessary for them to pull off the part. And so when you come in, that's why wardrobe is important. When you come in looking the part, they see it. That's the guy. That's the girl. There they are.
Do you think it also helped because you had admired and idolized Eddie Murphy
Oh, yeah.
and like been familiar with his work and
Yeah, this wouldn't have.
This was meant to happen. Like
It
they were
was.
meant to book that part and go on to have like even more success.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like. So tell me about working with him on set. I know we have to talk about other projects, but I'm so curious
Yeah.
because I grew up watching Eddie
Yeah.
Murphy.
Yeah. No, honestly, like I said, I had the thought in my head that if they judged it fairly, those are my words, then I would get it. Because I honestly felt like nobody knows this guy like I do. Nobody knows. So I went in there doing my best Eddie Murphy. That's what I did for my audition. I was doing my best, like the timing, the ad libs, all of it. I was doing it all, and yeah, I won Betty over, and she, when I left the room, this is also, I'm not supposed to know this. When I left the room, she went crazy, and she was like, I can't believe we found him here. I can't believe it. Oh my God, I can't believe. And she was like, she called Eddie Eduardo. Eduardo's gonna love him. Oh my God. So, and the thing that made me very confident watching onto that set was that Betty told me once I got the part. My brother and I both got the part. We auditioned together and they gave us the part. Once we got it, she told me Eddie approved this video. He watched your audition and he's like, those are the guys. So I knew he liked us and thought we were funny. And unfortunately, my brother couldn't end up doing the movie, so I went on to do the movie once it all got rescheduled. And the first thing Eddie said to me on the first day of filming was, "You're real funny, man. You're real funny."
To get that from Eddie Murphy, you're like, well, just 1 second.
Single
Let
tear.
me- Good. Like, I don't think, did we have Blackberries back then? You're like, I need to record this, okay?
Yeah, I had nothing to record.
I need to like, could you just say that one
Yeah,
more
just say it one more
time?
time.
One more time. Eddie Murphy said I'm funny.
Like I could literally be in court for having murdered every people, like a bunch of people. I'd be like, no, you don't understand. I didn't do it. Eddie Murphy told me I was funny, so there's no way this is not funny, right? No, you're going to jail. No, honestly, you cannot. Nobody can take that away from me. Nobody can take that away. Which makes it difficult when I'm doing comedic auditions because I'm like, I know best. I'm like, that's not funny. I'm funny. No, anyways. We had a great time. He was so generous with me. I have this image in my head of Eddie Murphy sitting on an apple box between two cameras, like scrunched down between the two giant cameras, doing off-camera lines for me. And the director was like, you don't need to do that. You're standing, Roger. He can do it. And he was like, no, I'll do it. And he never does it for anybody.
Wow.
This is what, for big stars, yes, but like some cat who just booked a part from nobody knows. But he liked me. He thought I was funny, and Eddie's kind of got an eye for funny people. Chris Rock being one of them. He's the guy who basically discovered Chris Rock. He puts people on. Dave Chappelle. He put Dave Chappelle on in The Nutty Professor. Dave Chappelle is in that movie, and that's what helped, propel Dave Chappelle. Eddie is that guy. So when he gives you a nod, man, there's a whole generation of comedians where that was the guy who told you were funny. You're funny. There's no two ways about it. So that gave me a massive amount of confidence, and working with him gave me a massive amount of confidence in that. The greatest thing I think I've ever done on set is make Eddie Murphy. I broke him. I made him laugh. I made him fall out of a scene, and it's like.
What would a set be like working with him? Like, did you get, what was it like even working? I hear sometimes people say, I don't even know how we got any work done because you were just laughing too much and having way too much fun.
He's very quiet. Very
wow,
quiet.
Really?
Yeah, he's an observer. He likes to watch people do stuff. This is why he's so good at mimicking people, because he watches people very, very intently. But he's very quiet. He's the guy who kind of likes to be like a fly on the wall and just observe people. So people think you're gonna meet this guy who no, he's not like that.
No way.
No.
Wow.
It was a trip. I was like, hey Eddie, what is that? And he was like, yeah, okay, kid. He was relaxed. I was like, yeah, but. and
you're Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, like you're Eddie Murphy. You must be so excited all the time. And he was like, he's just chill. He's very chill.
Oh wow.
And
he conserves that energy to get it on camera.
Yes. And he taught me that. He's like, first day I was like, action, cut, talking to everybody. I'm so excited. And he was like, yo, man, you're gonna wanna hang on to some of your energy because it's gonna be a long day. I'm fine. I'm 26 years old. I'm good. That first day, 15 hours, I was like, oh my God. But I was so excited, it didn't matter. But he was teaching me a very valuable lesson. You have to like conserve your energy.
That must have been like the biggest like acting conservatory, like this experience. You're getting all this pulp juice.
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy,
Yeah.
like what a
Yeah.
legend, and
Yeah.
that was like the defining moment in your career.
Yeah, it's you know what's interesting? The most interesting thing about that moment and that situation is that I thought that, all right, I'm off to the races now. I'm going to Hollywood, and we're gone. We're good. And it didn't work out like that. I went to LA. I came close on a few different projects. Like the other guy, they went with this dude, and it was between me and him. There was a few projects that happened like that, and because I'll tell you one of the reasons why I've always been so supportive of you is that you are supportive of the people here who are trying to like get the word out about themselves as an artist, and there's just not a lot of that takes place here. There's not a star system here. It doesn't exist. You got to go to the East Coast to like find a star system for entertainers, and so consequently, like everything kind of cooled on me after I came back from LA. It's just like there's no I Spy situation that's coming up, so you know it kind of dropped off a bit. I did end up working with Dave Thomas, who was from SCTV, on a movie that he put together, and I got to work with Dan Aykroyd. So I've worked with two of the 3 stars from Trading Places. I got to work with. I got to work with Eddie, and I got to work with Dan Aykroyd.
Amazing,
Yes,
brilliant.
yeah. So comedy is a big thing. I thought that I Spy was gonna blow up, and it didn't. It didn't end up doing that. But like I said before, I made Eddie break on camera. I ad-libbed. We were ad-libbing back and forth, and I said something, and he laughed, and I was like, I could hang with him. I could hang with Eddie Murphy. If I can make him laugh like that, then clearly I'm supposed to be here. I Spy didn't do for me what I thought it was going to do as far as like put me on the map and like make everybody know who I am and put me on the next level. It didn't do that. But what it did do was it proved to me that I could do it. That I could be from nowhere and be beside.
And it's almost like that's even bigger. Like because then when you're walking into the rooms, whether you're auditioning or booking the job or not, because this is like your idol, when this is your hero that you've looked up to all your life, and you're like shoulder to shoulder working
right
with
beside
him.
him.
And he's like, "You're funny, man," and he's laughing at your jokes.
So like that.
Did you feel so? What was that internal shift like for you? And then afterwards, when you're going for jobs and booking stuff and working on set, because afterwards, either you're maybe expecting to go there, or you're like, okay, because you've gone to the pinnacle.
I thought it was gonna keep going. That's the thing. You like, it's gonna keep going. It's gonna keep going, and it didn't. It didn't work out that way, and I had to regroup because it's really difficult to go from like something where you're up on this level, and then in the next week you're auditioning for something that's like principal, like it's a smaller role. Like how am I not auditioning for all the supporting lead roles now? That's what it's supposed to be, and that's not what happened. And so I literally had to rebuild and try to get back to that level again. And it's a jungle out there, man. Los Angeles is not easy. A lot of actors go to Los Angeles and it doesn't work out for them. But what I've taken from all of that is I know I can do it. That I don't have that doubt in my head. I worked with my idol, and I did something that I said I would do when I was like 8 years old, which is I said I'm gonna work with him one more. And I did it. And to kind of do that, to kind of achieve such a big goal that you set out for yourself, it's kind of a crazy feeling, because
I don't know if you believe in this, but it's also like manifestation, like law of attraction, like when you almost like obsessively are focusing on that, and
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to be kind of like what the Gen Z, the kids call it, delulu, like delusional a little bit, and it came to be.
Yeah.
And you're working on this show, and here, it was filmed here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, here in Budapest.
Yeah, that's so amazing. And the fact that you're getting to travel and doing this, and you're his homie, you're working with him.
That's what I'm saying.
You know, right there.
Yeah.
And from then onwards, babe, like, look at what you've done. Like, you know, it's like, I mean, Mr. Leacock, your career did not just like stop.
You know what?
At, like, but I understand what you're saying, that, you know, you're like, you had these aspirations, but like here in Vancouver, the work, your body of work, the amount of work that you've done, you consistently work. But I also hear what you're saying, that you have to have that internal mindset shift, because a lot of being an artist, whether you're an actor or painter, sculptor, or self-employed individual, a lot of the game is the inner game.
Totally.
It's the inner battle of the critic, or like our own
We're our own worst enemy.
pride or ego, or like insecurities, or whatever we think, where we think we should be, but the journey has something else in mind.
And I had to let go of me lamenting that I wasn't where I thought I was going, right? And it just didn't unfold the way I thought it was. But more importantly, in the interim between then and now, I got married and we have three amazing kids, and becoming a father was always more important to me than anything else. And that's been my biggest win, the best thing that's ever happened.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's like priorities, you know, like when you're single and you're an actor and you're chasing this thing, well, you and your career are the most important things in the world to you. That's it. That's what you're trying to go after. But I knew that as an actor, what's going to make me way more interesting is if I have a life. That's the deal. That's what we're tasked to do. We're supposed to be able to replicate life. And it's really difficult to do when you only get so far. It's the reason why I never believe Leonardo DiCaprio anytime he plays a dad. I don't believe it. He dates people he's old enough to be a parent of.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to believe this dude's a father? I don't believe it.
I think Mark Brandon, he wrote this book many years ago, and he kind of says something similar, like when I was taking classes, and you know, and it said something like have your different hobbies and passions, because I was one of those people just like obsessing with that intensity of the you know, wanting to move and like all these.
Because you have to.
Yeah. And then, but versus when you go out there, you're busy living your life, and some of that obsession kind of releases and you soften. Yeah. And I'm sure, like, being a husband and father to your children, like, I love seeing the pictures I saw on your Facebook. I sent a little heart, you know, with your wife and your kids and these beautiful, it's just a different element that, you know, that hunger for it, versus I'm sure now that you're booking parts, you're just like, you have so much more going to you, and I'm sure so many actors must come to you asking you for like advice on, you know, whether, I think also like BIPOC actors, like I feel like that's also because you've been in this industry long enough, and you know, it's like today I was like going through your going through your IMDb, and I was like, okay, and I'm seeing all these pictures with all the peeps. I'm just like, oh wow, and you know what I admire about you, Viv, is like your humility. You're always just like, you're just so, you're like, it's just a thing I did, you know, Like, from the moment that I met you to now, like, I was like, okay, he's Mr. Netflix now, he's Mr. Laddermilk, you know, here comes the star power.
You know what, this is what, so all three of my kids everybody's in the industry, everybody's an actor, and my poor wife. Just deal with 4 actors now, but like,
always busy running lines.
So busy. Everybody's running lines.
Is there wall painted blue, one painted gray?
No, we literally built a studio in the back.
Oh, of course you did. It just
we
makes
had
sense.
to.
It just makes sense for actors.
Yeah, we had to.
How is it lit?
Everyone's like,
tell me how is it lit?
Don't talk because someone's got an audition. That was our house before we had the studio. So I say to the kids all the time, I said, look, I'll tell you what we're doing here as actors. We are people that are able to stand up in front of a camera in a room full of crew and cast and pretend. We're able to drop into a character and play with the imaginary circumstances and make sure that there's stakes behind everything we do. We're able to do that. I said, so what are we providing? We're providing a service. The service that we are providing is we are here to help the people that are out there in the world that do all the other jobs that we don't do, who have real stress on their minds because they're operating on a baby in half an hour or the next day, or they're, repairing infrastructure so that people have clean water. They're doing stuff that is saving lives. There are people like that in the world, and we give them a break. That's what we do. We're not here to become famous or to have the last say or word in anything that's going on the planet. That's not our gig. What we're tasked to do is take this natural ability to be in front of a camera, and it doesn't weird you out to the point that you want to jump off a building, because people's worst fear is public speech, but not mine and not yours. But so many people can't do this thing, and they don't want to do this thing, which is why actors and artists so people prop them up. They prop us up because they're like, I could never do that. I could never do that. I wouldn't want to do that. So yes, we have this ability, and we should be very proud of the fact that we have this ability, but it doesn't make us better than anybody else. It just makes us the ones who are helping people have a break. That is what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's it. So I can never get a big head because there are people out there doing something that's far more important than what I'm doing. I'm just a part of their process rather than the other way around.
Thank you for saying that. And I feel like also during COVID we learned how much entertainment was important.
Oh yeah.
We were binge watching the shows.
Yeah.
I'm a binger. I sit there and watch Netflix the whole season in one go. Let's go continue. All these shows that were filmed here locally. I love watching this stuff. What was it like working on Dirt Gently with a lot of locals here, like Michael Eklund?
Michael Eklund, Zach Santiago, Oscar Chow. We played the Rowdy Three. There's 4 of us, and we had so much fun.
It looks so fun and eccentric.
It's so off the wall. So my character Grips, he would only, so he was kind of like Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy. So the way his brain worked, he only spoke about what he was seeing in the moment. He didn't talk past tense. So he would be like, that's a burgundy sofa. That's all he was doing. He's just recognizing what he's seeing in front of him. That's it. So it was very interesting playing that character. And we had a ton of fun. That show should have blown up on another level. It clicked with a lot of fans. It's one of those situations where something becomes a cult, it gets a little cult following, and it still lives on, and we still have fans that contact us, and people are blown away by the Rowdy Three. It was a lot of fun.
From when you started to now, back I Spy days or even before versus now in 2024, of course, as a person of color, as a Black Canadian actor, how do you feel the roles and the jobs you're going for, how that has changed over the years? I feel I really see that for me a lot, going from sorry, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but Hot Girl number 2, Bikini Babe number 3, versus okay, she has a name.
Yes.
And and then it was always accents. So it's have a few Middle Eastern, Afghani, Indian, different accents in your back pocket to go to.
You have to.
So for a while, it was I'm always that, but now it's you're doing, okay, I can just speak how I speak. So how has that journey been for you as a performer?
Yeah, honestly, so I started acting when I was 17, and it was on a show called Neon Rider. Neon Rider was starring the late Winston Wrecker, and it was a show about troubled teens and the group of adults that kind of like open their hearts and their time to make sure that these troubled teens have a place to these urban kids have a place to kind of go away, go to this ranch and like hang out and try to not be so angry. And so that was the first gig I ever got, and it was the first audition I ever did. Booked the part, recurring role, cool. So I'm like learning on the job basically, and back then I acted for about I was on that show for like a year, and then everything I did after that audition was like some of the worst writing for a person of color that I've ever seen. Like every audition I went into, I was getting these sides that were horrific. Like I don't know who wrote this, but no black person in the world would say this. Like, and I'm walking into auditions and I'm just getting angrier and angrier and angrier with all of the material that I'm going in to read for. And I actually ended up walking away from acting because I just was like, I don't want to portray another black person in a demeaning light. I'm not gonna do it. And that was 90% of the stuff that was being written for black people was like mugger, inmate, thug, like everything that you could get an opportunity to do as a young brother in town was like something that you wouldn't want to portray. You just wouldn't want to. But that was the climate at the time. I was 17 in 1991, so we're talking like Rodney King riots and all that stuff. That's what's going on in the background of me getting into this industry. And that's what the world is looking at. And that's what the world is like at the time. And it was just too politically over to one side for me to be a part of it. So I literally walked away for like 7 years. I didn't have anything to do with acting. And then came back. I came back when I realized that I can't change things from the outside, but I can change them from the inside. I can, meet that studio executive who didn't realize that this was the wrong thing to think or say about a black person. I can, influence that casting director to open their eyes and like, you can envision this black person being a dentist. Because when I say that, people have never seen a black dentist. Like I'm literally saying something that there's 90% of the people I know have never seen. And it's a real thing. I'm like, have you ever seen a black dentist? No. Well, they never have, because you're not gonna see it on TV. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just like somebody is deciding who represents all of these different things and if you go around the world, you meet everybody doing everything. But television and film has a different idea, and it's all about putting people in boxes. And so to break out of that box, you need the help of the people that are already there. They have to know that unless they open their eyes, this is not going to change. Casting has got to be like, hey, why don't you see this person for this role? There's a person who has the attributes of the characteristics of the character you wrote. They have these things inside of them. Why don't you see that person and see what they do? Just a person. Don't have to nail it down and say, oh, this person needs to be this person needs to be that. Now, sometimes, obviously, to tell a particular story, you need people that represent, this race or that race or whatever. But so many parts, it's not necessary.
And I feel like it's such a way of, and people don't realize the power of Hollywood and movies and TV shows. For someone who was born in Pakistan, when I moved to Canada at 17, and when you see like a bad guy in a movie, and if the machine, I'm an actor as well, but if the machine is showing you that someone from this part of the world is always the bad guy,
that's what you think.
If the individual wears this and this is what they look like, people around the world who are consuming this medium, they are going to start believing that, even if they know that yes, this is just a movie, it's make-believe. But when you show it over and over again through big Hollywood productions that are winning all these awards, and always the hero is Mr. So-and-so, like who is a great actor, but who is a Caucasian guy. But then we have this individual who just happens to be this
Yeah. Fill in the
faith,
blanks. Yeah.
you know, I'm not going to
Yeah.
say anything.
Yeah.
As we know, there's lots of stuff going on in the world right now. But of this belief and who looks like this, then everyone in the world, little by little, starts believing that, because that becomes a collective mentality.
Yes.
And that's how we, you know, it's like, so going from you when you were 20 something to versus now, and now you're writing.
Yeah.
You're making your own projects.
Yes.
You can see my excitement.
Yes. Yes. No, because you have to. You have to. Look, you're never gonna have it that it's always gonna be lopsided, and so typically the landscape looks like the ones running it. That's what everything looks like. Advertising, you know, TV shows, movies. It looks like the people who are behind the scenes, who are in charge of deciding. That's what everything looks like. It looks like them.
Yes.
They're the ones in the position, so that they want to see their own stories. That makes sense. That's just what it is. You know, like, I don't think I could move to another part of the world, and that was, you know, has its own movie star system, and finds people who are going to be like, hey, let's make an all black movie. That's not going to necessarily happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to necessarily happen. People are going to they're going to work for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's what's so important for us to create our own work.
so important. We have to, because you know, for someone to write the perfect part for me, I mean, it comes along every once in a while where, you know, again, the stars align. You find yourself standing beside Eddie Murphy, but like, I'm supposed to wait, you know, for that to happen again. That was a perfect storm of situations that lined up to make that happen. And yes, I had to have the talent and be ready, you know, when it came up. But I'm not gonna sit around and wait for that again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I'd rather try to take what I have now and help shape the way things should be going, you know, or go in the direction that things can go. I want the best person in the part. You know, if I write something, I want the best person. I don't care what the deal is. Again, like I said earlier, if the story is specific to a particular race, like, you know, I'm looking for someone to play my brother, well, they gotta look like me. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, that's the way it's gonna work. But if I'm looking for someone to play my best friend, he doesn't have to look like me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. It's just, I want the best person, and an ensemble of amazing people around me. That's it. And I'm not about like, it has to be like everybody has to be black. No.
Showing the culture as it is.
Yeah, let's do
you
that.
know, it's like, which is like where we live, Vancouver. If you go to New York, LA, Montreal, all these places, like, yeah, no, I believe the same. It's like showing the mixed, but of course, like on our show, like I really make an effort to like highlight, you know, and I think it's really important to me because I know what it was like growing up and what I didn't recognize that was the thing that was affecting me, but looking back now, it was. I want to talk. Is it okay to talk about the project you just finished working on, like over the winter time? And you know, I know a little bit about it because I did get to like. I don't have a good British accent. My audition was probably terrible, but
it wasn't.
But it was great story. So I will let you talk about this story that you know you're behind and in front of the camera. So
I had a really cool thing come up in that about a year and a half ago. I called up one of the writers that works with Hallmark, and her name is Michelle Ricci. And Michelle and I have worked together in the past because I did a series of movies for Hallmark called The Haley Dean Mysteries, opposite my good friend Kelly Martin. And Michelle came on as writer from, I think, the third episode onward. It was the third movie onward. And I had never really, so I'm like, again, I got that whole Eddie Murphy kind of ad-lib thing that I love to do. And I had never opened a script ever that I was a part of and seen what I would say. It's always what the character would say, and then I change it a lot of times. That's what I do with stuff. I just make stuff my own. But this was the first time I opened up a script, and the way the character was talking, I was like, That's how I talk. Like that's what word I would say right there. And she nailed my way of speaking. Like she literally watched interviews and watched.
You're kidding.
She really found my voice, and I couldn't believe I was reading a script that I didn't have to do anything to. I didn't have to change anything. I just couldn't believe it. And so we became real close, and so I called Michelle and I said, listen, myself and my co-star from When Calls the Heart, Natasha Burnett, she plays my wife on the show. We have an idea.
Which is the longest running Hallmark.
The longest running
Hallmark show.
Wow, yes. When Calls the Heart.
With Loretta Walsh.
With Loretta Walsh, my good friend. Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna get her here as well.
Yes, you come in, Loretta. A great ensemble cast. Juggernaut of a show. It's been on forever. And myself and 2 of my 3 kids joined the cast season 8.
Woo!
So, yeah, they hired my.
It's a family
Yeah,
affair.
they hired 2 of my 3 kids to play my kids on the show, and so with this project that so the name has changed, or it's changing. So it was called The Hunt for Love. I'm not sure what it's going to be called now, but it's myself and Natasha Burnett. And Natasha is an antiques dealer who's trying to find the provenance of a locket that that her mother, who was also an antiques dealer, was trying to find for like her whole life. And Natasha takes up the search. It leads her to America from the UK, where she ends up bumping into this guy. And I play the sheriff of a small town named Wilmington. And whilst trying to find this locket, the 2 fall in love. So, the hunt for love.
I love the name Hunt for Love.
Yeah, I think it's cool too. But they want to go with something different. But Natasha and I we had a great time filming the movie, and I'm really proud of this film because the feedback we're getting from Hallmark, they love it. They're really, really enthusiastic about it. It tested very high. Everybody's very happy.
And they're already very familiar with your work.
They're already very familiar with my work, so I think we're going to have more opportunities to kind of be behind the camera. So not only were we the stars of the movie, we were both executive producers as well. So I really enjoyed that.
Is that
process.
something you're looking forward to doing more in the future?
Producing?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I actually think my brain works a lot more like a producer kind of / director than an actor. I don't necessarily look at scenes from the actor's point of view. I kind of looking at the whole thing. Like my biggest thing is I talk about it all the time. If I'm coaching anybody, or I'm doing an audition, or I'm doing
Are
a
you
scene.
still coaching?
I am.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Well, now that you have my correct number.
Yes. Which
is a story.
Which is a crazy story, because I don't know how this happened, but Zara has my cousin's old cell number from years ago that he no longer has, but it was still entered into my phone as his number. So when she contacted me, I'm seeing my cousin's name on the phone. It was really weird.
And you can't say no to your cousin.
No.
Yeah, you can't say, I'd be like, oh, like, look at these 6 or whatever people. Hi, okay, yeah, I heard you're Stephen Loba's neighbor. All right,
That's
okay, here I come.
Yeah, I got you covered. So yeah, working on the movie was amazing. Behind the scenes, executive producing, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of work. I was able to shadow Peter DeLuise for a couple of the episodes on When Calls as a director. They know I have ambitions to direct more, and they put together a little kind of like a program for those of us on the show who want to direct. They allow us to shadow the seasoned directors on our show, and so myself and Johanna March had the opportunity to shadow a couple of the directors. It's an amazing experience, and as an actor, to kind of see all the stuff that happens before you get there is it was
So the days that you're just acting, you're like, man, this is nice. You're like,
totally changed
I
my
don't
acting.
have to worry about that.
Yeah, because being an executive producer and actor on this movie, man, you know everything. Because there's prep involved in making movies, and actors just show up. We show up when everything is ready to go, but not producers. Producers are trying to make everything happen. It's
You're trying to make your days.
trying to make your days. Like the biggest thing shadowing Peter and producing this movie has taught me is that time is you cannot mess with time. You have to keep your time on point. You have to. If you're a producer or you're trying to run stuff, you don't get it back. You know, on set, you lose time. That's money. You're burning money. So, so to all the actors, come prepared. Come ready. Don't say, what's my line? What's happening in this scene? Don't say that. Don't do that, because you're killing everyone. Everybody that's there watching you has had this material for weeks before you arrived. And they all know what's going on, so why don't you? So do not be that actor that shows up not having read the whole script. Don't do it.
That's great advice. That's like really, really good advice. I want to ask a little bit, other than Eddie Murphy, is there someone else that you've worked with that you're like, man, this person was on my list of people to work with, and I can't believe I get to be here, work opposite them,
Yeah.
you know, having like a bit of a aha moment, someone pinched me, like, this is happening.
Yeah. I actually got to work with Tom Hardy. Yeah, on a movie, This Means War.
Yes.
Yeah, with Chris Pine, Reese Witherspoon.
Wow, what a cast.
Yeah.
And you.
And Tom Hardy. Yeah, I was one of the guys lower down the list, but got to work with both Chris and Tom on that movie, and it was really cool. Like, Tom Hardy was just about to blow up at this time, so it was a trip being around him, because we were with him when he got the call that he was going to be Bane for Batman Rises, The Dark Knight Rises. We were like standing with him when he got the call. He's like, I got it. And he was like, everybody was pumped for him and hyped. And that was a cool experience. And I'm telling you right now, Chris Pine is probably one of the nicest human beings you'll ever meet. He is, if you want to look at how someone should be on set with everybody, Chris Pine is the example. He knew everyone's name. He looked everyone in the eye. Please and thank you. Kind to everyone. Just spoke to the crew before shooting, after shooting. Thanked everybody. I was just like, wow. This dude, this cat's a real deal. When we wrapped, he was like, everybody, myself and Tom and Reese would like to say a few words. And Reese Witherspoon and Tom Hardy were like, what? What's happening right now? And he was like, come on guys, and he thanked everybody and thanked the director, and they were like, nobody does this. You can see it. They were just like, what's happening right now? But I took note of that, man.
And that's generous.
Yeah, he was a good cat, and I had the opportunity to do the same thing on The Hunt for Love. I gave a speech to the crew and the cast before we started shooting, and it kind of hit me that I was so proud of putting together this film, because as far as a timeline, there was, because of the strike that happened, this was some of the crew's first time getting back to work in 5-6 months, and they're on our movie, and I was so proud that I made a phone call and made something happen. I made a phone call, I called the writer, she called the producer, who walked it into Hallmark, and a year and a half later, it lined up with people being able to work coming out of a strike.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, I don't know how it all happened and why it did, but that it happened that way, it just made me more proud. I would have been proud of the crew had they all come off of something, but to know that people were getting their feet back on the ground and stuff like that, and we made that possible. Yeah, it got pretty emotional that day, and even when we wrapped, I was able to say some words, and Natasha said some words as well, and yeah, it just really landed. It was a cool moment. I was very proud of that.
Congratulations. I'm
Yeah.
proud of you. And this is inspiring for me. Before we let you go, Viv, Mr. Leacock, we would love to know what inspires you in life. Where do you draw your inspiration from?
That's good. That's a good question. I've always said that, like I said earlier, I always wanted to be a father. My kids are the faces of my drive. Like, before I knew them, I knew they would be, but, in meeting them and being alongside of them for this ride, this journey, yeah, there's nothing I wouldn't do for them and my wife. And just trying to put that together and seeing those examples, it's not too often you see people that put family first in the industry, but that inspires me. I love it when people chase their dreams, but they pull their family along with them. That's inspiring to me.
And a new generation of actors.
Yeah.
The show is called On Location. I would love to know, is there a particular location you like to go to in the city or surrounding area to restore, rejuvenate, or even just to get your inspiration?
You know what? My wife and I did this yesterday. So our kids used to belong to a track and field club that ran up at UBC. And I don't know what it is about being up on the UBC grounds, but I'm so drawn to that land. I don't know what it is. We always go in that direction, and we love just walking around. And we did that yesterday. My wife and I, we just went and we walked around the campus basically. But we love being there.
It's very calming, and I also love the Pacific Spirit Park and all that area.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come out here. We finally made it happen after months of,
Yes.
negotiations back and forth with this superstar. No, I'm kidding. We're so glad. I'm just so excited to see everything you've accomplished. Great to have you here, and looking forward to working together.
Yes.
And then we'll be doing more of these. But honestly, you really inspire me, and I'm so glad we had this today. And thank you.
So proud of you.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure to watch his new show, Louder Milk, and of course, continue watching When Calls the Heart. And look out for the new movie, which is going to be renamed.
Yes.
It will be coming out soon. And until next time, I'm your host, Zara Durrani, and this was Viv Leacock. Thank you for joining. The show is produced with the support